The smell of the Nile in summer, usually a familiar comfort, was thick with the scent of fear. My own, mostly. Pharaoh, all but a child, was oblivious, picking at loose threads on his tunic. "Are they here yet, Theodotus?" he asked, his voice reedy and impatient, utterly lacking the gravitas a king should possess. A king, mind you, who was currently at war with his own sister. Even worse, she happened to also be his own wife. She was older, more charismatic, certainly wilier than this simple boy, and she had a mind of her own. Troublesome. "Soon, your majesty," I lied, or at least stretched the truth until it hummed like a plucked bowstring. The legions of Rome, or what was left of them after Pompey's disastrous flight, were supposed to be our salvation. Or our damnation. It was hard to tell the difference these days. Cleopatra, may the gods curse her painted smile, had been making alliances, charming her way into Caesar's apartments, even as we squabbled over the throne of Egypt like two street urchins over a discarded fig. I glanced at the boy king. His eyes, dark and wide, held no malice, only a child's simple desire to win, to have his way. He didn't understand the stakes. He couldn't grasp the political currents, the shifting loyalties, the cold, calculating ambition of a sister who would just as soon see him dead as share a plate of dates. My own youth, spent enduring the whispers of and the knives of the court, felt a lifetime ago. A eunuch's life is one of service, of quiet influence, a constant tightrope walk between power and oblivion. I had seen pharaohs rise and fall, seen alliances forged and shattered like clay pots. And now here I was, advising a child in a war he couldn't possibly comprehend, against a woman who understood power better than any man I had ever known. He was a pawn, just like me, just like Egypt itself. And as the distant murmur of approaching boots grew louder, I wondered if we were about to be swept off the board entirely. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. Imagine, if you will, the weight of an ancient crown settling upon young shoulders, the echoes of a father's last wish still hanging in the air. This was the dramatic scene that unfolded for Cleopatra VII, the last time that we met. Her father, Ptolemy XII, the flute player, had meticulously charted the course for his kingdom's future, dictating in his will that his brilliant daughter Cleopatra should share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, as co-rulers. This pivotal decree wasn't merely a private family affair. It was etched into the very fabric of the kingdom, solidified on the auspicious day of May 31st, 52 BCE. When an inscription in the revered temple of Hathor at Dendera formally designated Cleopatra as a regent for her ailing father. The exact moment Ptolemy XII breathed his last remains a point of scholarly debate, a historical whisper in the winds of time. Some historians, like Dwayne W. Roller, suggest his passing might have occurred before March 22nd, 51 BCE, while Joanne Fletcher offers a more precise date of March 7th, 51 BCE. Michael Grant, meanwhile, pushes the timeline even farther, suggesting it could have been as late as May of that year. As we discussed last time, Cleopatra's relationship with her father, Ptolemy XII Aleutes, was complex, to say the least. On the one hand, she was the only child he had brought with him into his exile after his daughter, and probably his wife, had overthrown him. Just to be clear in this case, we mean two different people. Hate that within the family we have to say it, but that is the Ptolemies. He had personally seen to her education. On the other hand, she had witnessed the same man execute his other daughter, something I'm sure would leave anyone with a complex. Seriously, this has to be a psychiatrist's dream come true. And let's be honest, this meant her relationship with him no matter what. It had largely been driven by political necessity. But it is highly probable that she would have been observed mourning customs upon his death. Upon her father's death in 51 BCE, Cleopatra, then around 18 years old, inherited the throne and became co-ruler with her younger brother Ptolemy XIII. This transition of power was a significant political event, and while her ambition for sole rule would become evident later, the immediate aftermath of a pharaoh's death involved specific customs. Ancient Egyptian mourning rituals, particularly for royalty, were elaborate and deeply ingrained in their culture, even for the Hellenistic Ptolemaic dynasty that ruled Egypt. As we discussed in the myths about Isis, these customs were not solely about personal grief, but also about the deceased's transition to the afterlife and the continuation of divine order. Given that Cleopatra immediately ascended to power, it would have been crucial for her to uphold the established traditions and demonstrate respect for her deceased father and the legitimacy of succession. Failing to observe these customs would have been seen as a sign of disrespect or even political instability. So while we don't have direct historical accounts detailing Cleopatra's personal emotional state at her father's death, it's reasonable to assume that she would have participated in the required mourning rites, both out of a sense of filial duty and as a crucial political act to solidify her new position as queen. Her name, Cleopatra, itself means glory of her father, further emphasizing the importance of her paternal lineage.
Regardless of the precise day or how she personally felt, though, Cleopatra wasted no time in asserting her royal prerogative. On March 22nd, 51 BCE, in one of her earliest known acts as queen, she embarked on a journey to Hermonthis, a site near the sacred city of Thebes, to participate in the solemn installation of a new sacred Bucus bull. This ritual was no mere formality. It was a profound act of devotion in the ancient Egyptian religion, as the Bucus bull was revered as a living intermediary to the god Montu. In a move that speaks volumes about Cleopatra's early strategic thinking, the Roman Senate, which viewed the Ptolemaic Egypt as little more than a powerful client state, was kept in the dark about Ptolemy XII's death for a surprisingly long time, not being officially informed of either June 30th or August 1st of 51 BCE, months later. This considerable delay was almost certainly a calculated maneuver by Cleopatra, a deliberate attempt to suppress critical information and consolidate her nascent power without the immediate and likely intrusive oversight of the mighty Roman Republic. It was a subtle yet significant declaration of the independence in the face of burgeoning Roman influence. I mean, to be fair, I get it. Like, we saw what happened to Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders 2.0.
Yeah, and why would you give your enemy information?
Right, like, you've got to, but like, at least this is honestly pretty cool, because it's like, you already see her playing the game. What do you do when you have to give someone information, but you really don't want to? You can't, on the one hand, you could, unfortunately, just give it to them, or you could not give it to them and cause a problem.
Or delay it. Make
or
them
do
question.
The middle of the road. Yeah, which is like, you delay it, and then when they go, oh, well, why are we just getting this? Oh, sorry, got lost in the mail.
Lost in the mail, or
I'm sorry,
we were doing our morning rites. We don't
Yeah,
send
and
mail during our morning rituals.
Yeah, or like, sorry, got like really crazy. I mean, my dad did just die. I'm so sorry. Like, and you see this later too, like when like we're, without getting too many spoilers, like she'll be like, sorry, in the middle of a famine, sorry, in the middle of a drought. And that's true, it's happening. But like, you're like, also like, babes, you could have sent the letter.
Like, we don't blame her for anything. She's awesome.
But like, if you call her out on it, you look like a jerk. Yes. So like But yes, she had a couple months at this point, like depending on, she either had, so this was, we got March, so April, May, June. So that's 3 months, or all the way up to August. She almost had like a half a year at the long date to like consolidate power for a bit and get shit settled in, which is going to be a lot harder for someone to like remove you. Yeah, it's a short amount of time, but like not like before where it'd be like days or weeks,
and if we're being honest, if I remember correctly, we're not necessarily on the same calendar than we are like right now. So technically
No.
June 30th and August 1st are only like a couple days apart because July doesn't really exist.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, but yeah, I mean, like there was definitely some flux with the calendars, but when they're doing like, when we're saying this is based off of like our modern calculation and taking into the account that it was kind of wackadoodle back then, which that'll come up later too because of Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it was actually like the Egyptians actually had their shit together. Hence, so yeah, like the Egyptians, they actually kind of have their shit together. And it's actually in Rome, where they're really struggling. And Cleopatra is actually one of the people who's advising Caesar on how to fix that calendar. Ever heard of a little thing called the Julio-Claudian calendar? That's where we get it from. And we have her kind of thank for that. So, like, Egypt wasn't perfect with this timekeeping, but it was a lot better than the Romans had been. So, the tapestry of Cleopatra's early reign is woven with threads of personal relationships and pressing crisis. There's historical speculation that she might have wedded her brother, Ptolemy XIII, a common practice with the Ptolemaic dynasty, to maintain the purity of the royal bloodlines. However, the exact timing and even the certainty of this marriage remain shrouded in the mists of history. What is undeniably clear, though, is the swift shift in the political landscape. So essentially, like, we all hear that she marries her brother, right? There are some arguments that technically no, she was a regent or like a co-queen, like ruler situation. Like, and you do see this weird in this time period, where you have like two kings or like two emperors or like whatever, right? And there was like talk in a book I was reading about like that under the idea that she was wedded to him, but like it wasn't meant to like actually produce anything. It was more that like so she could get a grip on power and do what she needed to do. Because her dad knew that there would be no legitimacy if she were to try and do it on her own. Like, people are pigs. They can't accept that there's just a lady ruler. Granted, I kind of raise an eyebrow because like we know that Bernie Sanders 2.0 and her mom had no problem. I mean, yeah, they wanted her to get married eventually, but like she was pushing that off for a while. But like the point is that he was trying to make a smooth transition, and in his head, this is how you do it. That's one way to look at this. But
well, yeah, and it's holding on to traditions versus allowing something new.
Yeah, it's like it's just weird. It's like I think that like like the common consensus, and it's not wrong. It's just technically there's not 100% proof on it. Is that it's assumed, but like that she was married to him. So by August 29th, 51 BCE, a mere few months after her ascension, official documents began to conspicuously list Cleopatra as the sole ruler. This effectively sidelined her brother and signaled her forceful rejection of their shared authority. So if this was a marriage, it wasn't going well.
No.
I mean, what a thought. I mean, I will say there's no proof that she consummated that marriage, and that's really great because, the thought of her doing like a 9-year-old is gross.
Very gross.
Like, brother aside, right? Like, that's gross anyway. But on top of that, yeah, ew. So glad we weren't attracted, and we're breaking family traditions already.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So this was a bold assertion of her will, though, a clear declaration that she intended to reign supreme. Yet the throne was far from a comfortable seat. Cleopatra immediately found herself confronted by a deluge of urgent issues and existential emergencies. For example, the lifeblood of Egypt, the Nile, had delivered tragically low levels of floods, leading to widespread food shortages and devastating famine that gripped the land, which I can't imagine's good for your popularity, right? Because this is a time period
No.
where we blame that on gods, like
And
in
if
their
you're not in the gods' favor, they're gonna send a famine or a drought.
so
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we kind of still do it today. Not like we don't say gods, but like say we have a lot of like natural disasters and stuff. It's like clearly the government, it's something government, it's their fault somehow. You're like,
No,
I
and
mean,
it's
within
silly.
reason it is, but like,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, you have to think like up until very recently in history, it was like, oh, something happens, must be God is mad at us, or Allah is mad at us,
No,
or
absolutely. And
God's.
all I can think of, do you know what British the British tradition of wassailing is?
Oh, I do. I think God, I know. I've heard of it. Yeah.
You didn't wassail hard enough. And now we're
Oh, it's like she's got to spin this real quick. Like, no, that like they were mad that I was with my brother. That's why, not that I need to do them because like you could paint it either way.
Absolutely.
You're like, oh, well, you didn't
We need
screw
more
your
spin
9-year-old.
doctors.
You didn't have sex with your 9-year-old little brother. So God's mad. Gods are big mad. God. So you've got that. So it's not just a famine. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just a drought or flooding. It's also like a PR problem too.
It is.
Even if you're handling it well, it's their thoughts like it wouldn't have ever happened in the first place. You must have done something or someone must have done something to piss somebody off. So,
Mm-hmm.
as if nature's wrath weren't enough, the kingdom was also plagued by relentless assaults of armed brigands,
Well, that's never
because
good.
that's what you need. Yeah. And they were preying on a populace already weakened by hunger. Hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah, not going great. So, another significant headache came in the form of the Gabiniani. Now, these were those, we talked about them a little last time. These were those now unemployed, largely assimilated, and predominantly Germanic and Gallic Roman soldiers who had been left behind by Aulus Gabinus to garrison Egypt after he had restored Ptolemy XII to power and ousted his rival daughter, Bernie 2.0. Their lawless behavior and rampant indiscipline posed a serious threat to stability.
So, despite these overwhelming challenges, Cleopatra demonstrated an astonishing acumen for financial administration. With a keen eye for detail and a strategic mind, she meticulously revitalized her kingdom's economic engines, eventually bringing the combined wealth generated from tax revenues and foreign trade to an astounding 12,000 talents a year, which is incredible. This impressive feat surpassed the wealth creation of even some of her more prosperous Ptolemaic predecessors, showcasing her profound understanding of economic governance. However, the shadow of her father's legacy loomed large in another sense: debt. She inherited a colossal financial burden, owing the Roman Republic a staggering 17.5 million drachmas by the time the formidable Julius Caesar set foot in Alexandria in 48 BCE. This immense debt would become a recurring motif, a constant pressure point in her dealings with Rome. The complexities of Cleopatra's early reign were further exacerbated by the ever present shadow of Roman power and the viper's nest of intrigue within her own court. In 50 BCE, Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus, the proconsul of Syria, dispatched his two eldest sons to Egypt. Their mission was most likely to negotiate with the troublesome Gabiniani, hoping to recruit some of them as soldiers for the desperate defense of Syria against the formidable Parthian Empire. However, their mission ended in tragedy. The Gabiniani, in a brutal act of defiance, tortured and murdered them. This
Oh shit.
horrific incident was perhaps not entirely unforeseen, with whispers suggesting secret encouragement from rogue senior administrators within Cleopatra's court, particularly the ambitious eunuch regent, Pothianos. Damn eunuchs.
Man. You know, it's funny because they're like, we'll cut off their balls and they won't be a threat. Ah! But they are.
They're always a threat.
Well, like, it's the idea of like, well, this is actually kind of a fun little, just 2-second tangent. One of the big, when people think of eunuchs, right, the first thought is like, well, you know, we think harem, where like, oh, it's so that they can be around women. Yeah, that's one aspect. But actually, eunuchs in this time period, it really wasn't about that. So it's like, well, then why are they chopping off people's balls? Well, it's because it's like, well, if they can't have kids, they won't want power. That's the logic. And you're like,
it's, well, the thing is, like, and this I've never truly understood how male power comes from the cojones. Just that
well, it's
belief
like,
has always been there, and I
Yeah.
don't understand it.
because of penetration. Not
But
even
your
kidding.
balls don't penetrate nothing.
No,
and if
no,
they
but
are
it's like,
penetrating something, Jesus Christ, what the fuck are you doing?
well, first of all, if you don't have balls, not like a vasectomy where like that's different. I'm talking about just removal of that period.
Yeah.
Does make having a boner harder to
Yes.
have. Not harder, you're not having a harder boner, you're just having a harder time getting a boner, okay?
Well, yes, because the chemicals are gone.
clear-
Like, you don't have the
Right.
testosterone.
So if we believe that masculinity and therefore the right to rule and dominance and everything else comes from the act of being able to penetrate, right? If you cannot get hard, you cannot penetrate. So
That's
therefore
true.
you're not masculine. So like, and that's a very Greco-Roman thing, especially Roman thing, because like the idea, so if a woman gets on top of a man, she's penetrating. Not even kidding. If you as a man,
they are the ones that are just like, it can only be in the missionary position. It
Correct.
comes from, of course, it comes from Rome.
Well, and it gets even better. You know, if you like a little head game, girls, you know, bad news for the boys. I guess you're penetrating them. Yes, if you give a woman oral, as a man, you are the penetratee. Therefore, you are the woman in the relationship, and that is unacceptable.
I love emasculating men.
Because it's not about pleasuring her. And she cannot be in control. You have to be in control. You have to be on top, literally. Right. Because if she's on top of you, right, she's the one in control. If your head's between her thighs, she can hold you there, you know? And and if you're standing, you're literally below her. So again, that's the problem. Like, you can do her doggy style, that's fine, you know, but you have to be above her. Otherwise, you are the penetrated.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm getting an education today.
Yeah. Welcome to Roman sex ed, guys.
All right. So, in a move that demonstrated her political shrewdness, the young queen quickly apprehended the Gabiniani culprits and sent them to Bibulus as prisoners, awaiting his judgment. While seemingly a savvy act designed to appease the Romans and assert her authority, Bibulus, for his part, was far from impressed. He summarily sent the prisoners back to her, sternly chastising her for interfering in Roman affairs that he believed should have been handled directly by the Roman Senate. This exchange highlighted the delicate balance of power, with Rome asserting its ultimate authority over its client state. Bibulus, entangled in the unfolding Caesar civil war, later sided with Pompey the Great and was tasked with the crucial mission of preventing Caesar from landing a naval fleet in Greece. His failure in this pivotal task would ultimately allow Julius Caesar to pursue Pompey all the way to Egypt, setting the stage for a dramatic and world-altering encounter.
But that's so annoying, right? Because she's trying to if you look at it from her perspective, she's trying to just do the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately those guys they're not even really her subjects. These were the leftovers from Rome. So she's like, here's your people back. Please take them. Thank you. Get them out of here.
They're
and then they're mad
problems.
well, right, because of course, they're pretty much mercenaries at this point.
Yeah.
They haven't and so she sends them back, and then they're big mad at her because, of course, these guys are bad news and cause problems. But it's like she would have never had to have sent them back if you had just taken them with you the first time.
Yes, and the thing is, these guys were coming into her land, right? Her land. She might have been a client state, but still a state.
Mm-hmm.
Still has some form of sovereignty, even as tenuous as that grip is. And she's like, all right, all right, all right. These guys are not playing nice. They are being murderous. They are ill-tempered. They are not following my laws. They're not doing what they need to do. You were coming over trying to court them so that you could take them and use them somewhere else. Let's kill two birds with one stone. You want them? Baby, I got them for you. Take them. But the only reason why I think that they had issue with it is because she's a fucking woman.
Yes. And the big thing is that they were also big mad that they wouldn't just continue to let her. Think of it this way. You've got essentially these guys stationed over there, right? And their usefulness becomes less useful over time. But at the end of the day, you still have a foothold. So if you ever needed to, you could have people that you could help to throw up, do an uprising, and have essentially instant troops on the ground as long as they stay loyal, right? And remember earlier who we said they consisted of?
Mm-hmm.
Germanic and Gallic peoples, barbarians, right? They are Romanized, but they are not they're not citizens, and even if they are, they're looked down upon, kind of like we look down upon certain immigrant groups in this country.
Exactly.
Anyway, but you might have a piece of paper saying you're an American, a Roman, but that doesn't count. So they didn't want to, honestly, probably, right, and they didn't really want to fulfill the promises, because that's the other thing, Roman veterans, after they go through a war or battles or whatever, usually promised land. Now, they can't exactly promise land here because it's not theirs to give out, but they just kind of left them there because, we don't have anything to give you, so I guess you can just stay here. Bye. Now, imagine it from their perspective. Yes, they are war. These are people who come from communities that celebrate war. And when we say Germanic and Gallic, there's Thracians and stuff, and I want to cover that someday, because there is this celebration of violence and warfare, but it's where we start seeing honorable war, honor warfare and things like that. These are the ancestors of later groups like the Vikings and the Goths and things like that. So yeah, it's an integral part, and you're just told the one thing you've trained your entire life to do, we're done with it, bye. And you're not even in your homeland with no way to get home.
Yep.
What the hell? What did you expect to happen?
Of course they're going to be rowdy.
But I think in the back of my head, exactly what they were doing. They're we're going to leave them there, and then if we ever need them again, we'll just promise them free passage home. Because even 20 years later, if you've established a life, you have family back home. Maybe not all of them are going to take it, but probably some of them will,
Yeah.
So as long as some of them will. So like I said, this whole thing is a bunch of nonsense. But don't feel too bad. We won't cover Biblis too much more, so I'll just spoilers on what happens to him. He goes to Libya. Caesar has him under siege, and rather than submit to Caesar, he unalives himself.
Of course.
So there you are. So Biblis is dead. He reaped what he sowed, I guess. So back to our leading lady.
Mm-hmm.
Despite her earlier attempts to dismiss her 11-year-old brother now as joint ruler, Ptolemy XIII retained formidable allies, whose influence steadily grew. Chief among them was that eunuch we talked about earlier, Pothinos, his tutor and the cunning administrator of his vast properties. Indeed, the Romans themselves, including Caesar, initially viewed Ptolemy XIII as the legitimate power behind the throne because he had a penis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really weird to me. It's like, no. This like almost adult woman, no, she's not the real power. It's clearly the 9-year-old or like the 11-year-old in this case pulling the strings, right? What?
I mean, it has to be because women can't do that.
Anything than just admitting, right? Other key figures in the cabal working for Cleopatra included Achilles, a formidable military commander who controlled significant portions of the Egyptian army, and Theodotus of Chios. Chios? Theodotus of Chios. Another of Ptolemy XIII's tutors, who undoubtedly shaped the young king's worldview. Could you imagine just all your middle school teachers running the country because they were your middle school teachers? It's kind of wild.
No, and them all vying for power. Imagining that. No, thank you. And it sucks. Cleopatra is literally, she almost has to sprint ahead and try to grab power before these men do.
What's even wilder is a lot of these tutors taught her.
Mm-hmm.
It's even crazier. So, it's funny because here, people can accuse teachers of manipulating their children.
These
they ain't got
teachers
nothing
were
on
actually
people.
manipulating their children.
Baby, no. Here's what that actually looks like. So,
exactly.
While Cleopatra appears to have been made a fleeting attempt at an alliance with another brother, the younger Ptolemy the 14th, how do you make an alliance? He's like a baby. You go over to your
bribe them with candy.
Right, I'm like an alliance with your 7-year-old brother. How hard can it be? God, just weird, because that's the part where if you just read, right, you don't get the nuance here. It's just names, and this is why we do this because
it's just names on a page if you're reading it that way. But realistically, she's what, 19, maybe 20 now?
I think she's 8. No, I think the numbers are off. I think it's 18. I don't know. The point is, she's
she's a young
she's old enough
adult.
To drive.
She is a young adult. Her brother husband, King, is 11.
Yeah. I'm 11.
He's 11. So just imagine the smell. Goddamn, 11-year-old boys stink. But not just that. They got funk. They just, I don't know what it is about the must.
I don't know why that number, for some reason, 12, 10 wouldn't have bothered me, but 11 just tickles me. It's like an 11-year-old. I don't know why it tickles me more. There's another podcast I love called Ancient History Fangirl, and they bring this up a lot. It'll be it was this joke from earlier on their show, and there was this kid who was it's like Cuchulainn, he's a mythic hero from the Irish annals and stuff. And this whole thing was when he was 11, he became king and conquered all these people, and they were I'm 11. I'm
oh God.
I just see every child king now going up I'm 11, hands on their hips.
Just superhero pose there. No, and it's just it's frustrating as hell. Just not only that, but like, so I have 3 kids. I have 3 children,
Mhm.
and they're all like 2 years apart. I'm imagining if my oldest had that much of an age discrepancy with her younger two
Yeah,
siblings, and was just like, well, youngest sibling, you want to form an alliance against that one? Like
right.
it seems so childish, but these had real world consequences, and that is
Yes.
tragic. That is so
But you know what's like
tragic.
wild? It's like you're not far off because again, like if you don't know ages, I guess you're imagining like I don't know, like all these people. I don't want to say adults, but like there's a mental image of like competency. So it's like Cleopatra was at war with or feuding with her brother, and like then she went to her other brother. But again, you have to remember the numbers, right? If Ptolemy the 13th's younger than her, then Ptolemy the 14th's way younger. And
Mm-hmm.
like the other thing is like it's not like they're living in different houses. And they have to like go to that other person's palace and be allowed entry or something. They're all in the same palace. This is Brady Bunch bullshit. Like she went and made an alliance. No, she went down the hallway. He's like, "Hey, I brought you some figs. Hey, buddy, how you doing?"
You want to play that board game
like
that
that
you
big old
like?
meanie brother of yours. Like it's just
He
weird.
said that
Like
you
how
smell
much
like
does
rotten fish. I'm sorry to tell you.
yeah. I mean, like, there was probably like tutors or something, but they all have the same tutor, so I don't even know anymore. I like to think that she just went over to his room, sat down on his little bed while he's playing with his little toys, because this is like a little kid. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Like, even if it was like bam, 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 like they had one kid after the other and they're only a year apart, right? So like Ptolemy's 11, Arsinoe's 10, that would mean that at the oldest, this kid's like 9.
Yeah.
Like, but like it does seem like they're spaced out. So I think this kid's closer to like 6 or 7. So with that all being said, she made an alliance with the 7-year-old, and by October of 50 BC, Ptolemy the 13th, the other child king, had decisively gained the upper hand in their simmering conflict. It's so weird. Like he's like 12. Like how does a 12-year get an upper hand? Like it just feels
No.
like sibling rivalry with knives. Like it's
No,
so
it's,
petty.
you know what it is? It is a chess game where Cleopatra and her family and all of the Ptolemies are on the board being
Yeah.
guided by other pieces. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with actual power being held. It has everything to do with who's actually wielding them.
Yeah, and like she's one of those people who just refuses to be wielded, so like
Mm-hmm.
that's also part of it.
Exactly.
She's gone from being a piece to the one of the players, and it but like everyone thinks they're one of the players, but it's
Yes.
just funny because you got this 12-year-old who's just like throwing a tantrum. He is.
Oh, absolutely.
But this
Why won't she
but this was
listen to me?
like a fact though. This was all a fact, subtly yet powerfully demonstrated by official documents that began listing his name before his sister. So she was originally kind of kicking him off the lists. Now he's got his names on the list. Like it's just again petty. It's like now my name's on it. Haha.
I'll race you to the dining hall.
It's like this is MySpace. See, I wrote my name on it.
I peed
You
on it.
don't
It's
own it.
mine.
Right. It's just it gives me like I think my brother and I went through this as well. When we were dealing
Mm-hmm.
with our political struggles and wrestles for power. I believe I took because he kept taking one of my favorite Transformers. I'm pretty sure I also wrote my name on it in our struggles for power
Absolute struggles
and
for
dominance.
power.
Right.
How dare he take a transformer? Such
Right. And
such a critical political piece.
I think we also did the same thing with like our beds and like rooms, and that's where I had to stop. So like it's
Oh my
giving this
goodness.
energy.
A little
Like,
bit. A
oh
little
my
bit. I
God.
can see it.
So, with that being said, the ascendancy culminated in the establishment of his first regnal date in 49 BC, a clear signal of his perceived sole rule. So essentially now he is not even including her on the stuff, right? We're 13 and we're tired of our sister putting her name on stuff with us. Cleopatra's quote unquote expulsion from Alexandria was not sudden, a sudden dramatic coup, but rather the inevitable culmination of a slow and insidious erosion of her power, meticulously orchestrated by the regents and the advisors who surrounded the impressionable young Ptolemy XIII, who's 13. 13, who's 13. The Ptolemaic court, notorious for its intricate power struggles, assassinations, and ambitiously cunning courtiers, provided the perfect fertile ground for such a plot. With a young, impressionable king on the throne, his advisors, particularly Pothinos, saw an unmissable opportunity to seize the reins of power for themselves, systematically sidelining the more assertive and popular Cleopatra.
So, the key figures in Ptolemy XIII's faction were a formidable triumvirate. Pothinos, the chief eunuch and regent for Ptolemy XIII. Pothinos was undeniably the most influential figure in this faction. He was a man of immense ambition and cunning, harboring a deep resentment for Cleopatra's attempts to dominate the government. He effectively controlled Ptolemy XIII and, crucially, the royal treasury, gaining him immense leverage. Achilles, a prominent general in the Egyptian army. Achilles provided the faction with the necessary military muscle. He commanded the considerable forces that had once been loyal to Ptolemy XII and were now firmly under the sway of Ptolemy XIII's court. His loyalty ensured the faction's military superiority. Theodotes of Chios, a rhetoric teacher to Ptolemy XIII. Theodotes also played a significant, albeit more subtle, role in advising the young king and subtly shaping his perception of Cleopatra, poisoning his mind against his older sister. And the fact that he is a rhetoric teacher. This is your fucking English teacher. This is this is your English teacher. Imagine if your English teacher was in your ear telling you what you need to do.
Yeah, well, and it's more than just being an English teacher, right? It's like a public speaking teacher. The ability to argue, the ability to win an argument, sometimes for fun, and it's philosophical, just, like what ifs back and forth, Socrates style or whatever. But by this era, this is like what lawyers, like successful politicians in Rome and Greece, but Rome, this is important. And Cleopatra would be very, very good at this. And I'm pretty sure this is the guy who taught her. So that's very funny that, he taught her too well.
A little bit. The student becomes the teacher. So this faction employed a multi-pronged strategy to undermine Cleopatra's authority. Pothinos, as treasurer, skillfully restricted Cleopatra's access to vital funds, making it increasingly difficult for her to reward loyalists, project an image of wealth and power, or maintain her own household. Simultaneously, the faction likely engaged in a relentless campaign of propaganda and slander, portraying Cleopatra as arrogant, overly ambitious, and perhaps even un-Egyptian. Given her Macedonian Greek heritage and her attempts to integrate more with native Egyptian traditions, this narrative might have resonated with certain Greek courtiers who viewed her with suspicion. Crucially, Cleopatra found access to the young king, to official documents, and to key decision-making processes increasingly curtailed. Orders that once bore her name or prominently featured it now began to prioritize Ptolemy XIII, or were issued solely in his name, effectively marginalizing her. Furthermore, Achilles' firm control over the army meant that any military force Cleopatra might have commanded would be limited, or worse, could even be turned against her. The breaking point arrived in the spring of 48 BCE. While the exact sequence of events leading to her flight remains somewhat unclear, it's highly probable that Pothinos and his allies orchestrated a situation where Cleopatra felt her very life was in danger, or that her authority had been completely nullified. She was effectively driven out of Alexandria, the sprawling capital city, which was the stronghold of Ptolemy XIII's court and the army loyal to his faction. This was not a voluntary departure, but a forced exile. She fled south, eventually making her way entirely out of Egypt, seeking refuge and crucial resources in the neighboring regions of Syria, a land that would soon become her base of operations for a dramatic return.
Yeah, and so in all of this, right, there's a couple things I find really interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, and I feel like this is relatable. Like they try to make her look quote unquote un-Egyptian, and that would make the Greeks suspicious of her. And you're like, okay, what? Think of it like this, right? Say you had a political figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they went to the Native Americans and tried to like it's a little problematic today with some of the stuff, but like imagine, I guess, that they were trying to portray themselves as an ally of Native peoples or like had some shared heritage, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have Americans and then we have Native Americans. And there's a lot of people who view themselves as the true Americans, aka Anglo-Germanic peoples who immigrated here. And they don't view Native Americans as true Americans. They view them as the native peoples of America, but not America in spirit, as in the nation of the United States of America. This is a very similar thing. Like the Greeks are like, we're Egyptians. I mean, like, no, not Egyptian, but Egyptian.
Oh no, and
you know
what?
that's the
You know what
vibe.
it reminds me of? You bringing up that point. You know how in the South, especially, in order
Mm-hmm.
to get, I don't even know if it's necessarily notoriety, and I'm not 100% sure what the purpose of it was, oh yeah, I'm related to a Cherokee princess. So
Yeah,
I've got heritage here.
yeah, and I guess in a way, Cleopatra is doing that, but like they don't have like by the time we're talking about now, it's a construct of race.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that construct of race. You can be a part of a culture and not like, so say your parents were Greek and they died in a tragic chariot accident, right? You don't know because, car crash. And you were adopted by a local wealthy Egyptian couple, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like you were raised in that culture, you are Egyptian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like inheritance might be a little bit trickier, but that's because you're not related by blood. But like for the most part, like the Greeks would not view you as Greek.
Yeah,
You're
you'd be
Egyptian.
some weird in
And that's,
between.
you're not even. Like the community would probably pretty embrace you as being Egyptian. It's not like you came in, depending, I suppose, on what age, but like, yeah, versus like, and even within Greek, it's like, okay, well, we're Egyptians. Like, we're not like those Ionian Greeks over there, like, or whatever, like there's a shared culture sort of, but not really.
Yeah.
But like, so like, yes, she can, as a ruler of peoples, be like, I am here for you. I am a blend of these two cultures. And they'd respect that. They wouldn't think that she's just trying to appropriate anything. And it's funny because she's written almost like as like, oh, she was doing that because it would provide a political advantage, which somehow insinuates that she was just like manipulating people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, duh. But like also, how the hell is she supposed to have control if she doesn't understand half of her people and can't relate to them? The majority of her people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, they were butthurt because she's actually taking these people's opinions and giving a crap about the welfare of everyone and not just a select elite few. Who are still getting very favorable treatment, I might add, but like they're just greed. They want all of it. And therefore we twist the narrative to make her look like she's being manipulated, even to this day. And I'm like, what would you do in that situation? Would you ignore them? That seems stupid.
That does seem stupid, and unfortunately, it seems like a pattern in patriarchal society.
Right. So Cleopatra however, as we are learning, was no ordinary queen. She was not one to passively accept or defeat or wallow in exile. Her intelligence, her boundless resourcefulness, and her fierce, unyielding determination are truly the defining hallmarks of her remarkable reign. And never were they more evident than in her response to this profound setback. So, from her place of refuge, Cleopatra immediately set about seeking sanctuary and forging new alliances in Syria, specifically in areas like Ascalon and other client cities. These regions were either within the broader Ptolemaic sphere of influence or at least sympathetic to the legitimate claims of a Ptolemaic client. Because remember last time when we were talking about Bernie 2.0, there were a lot of cousins there,
Mm-hmm.
that they were getting hitched to, like they're just all distantly related. So like she has family out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that weird that she actually went out that way. Cleopatra, a master of diplomacy, skillfully leveraged her connections and considerable charm to gather support, laying the groundwork for her triumphant return. Again, when I say her charm, again, I feel like that it's our brains want to take that as like manipulation. No, she was a charming person. Men can be charming people too. And I want to kind of change that narrative. She had charm. That was a talent,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she convinced them. Her primary strategy for regaining power was audacious and direct. She intended to build an army. While she undoubtedly appealed to any loyal Egyptian garrisons or local leaders who might still remember her as their rightful queen, her core fighting force was primarily composed of Arab mercenaries. Mercenaries, of course, were a common feature of the ancient world's military landscape. Arab tribes, particularly those from the desert regions bordering Egypt and Syria, were renowned for their formidable fighting prowess, especially in skirmishes and swift cavalry engagements. Crucially, they were also less likely to harbor existing loyalties to the entrenched Alexandrian court, and were primarily motivated by money. Pay me, baby. And I get it.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Girl, same.
So, right. I'm like, I mean, it is dangerous because, to be fair, in theory, if the other side's willing to pay them more, you have to hope that these are a little bit more honorable guys. But like, they're not going to be swayed by politics either,
Yeah.
And there's no way in hell, like, it's not, if they were native peoples, like Egyptians or Greeks, they could offer them like a position or land. These are just some random Arab people. They're not going to do that for them, So like, you've at least taken that opportunity off the board. Cleopatra, ever the astute financial administrator, would have leveraged any remaining personal wealth she possessed or shrewdly promised future rewards to secure their valuable services. I would say hand in hand. She probably gave them money there and said, there's more where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't just say, I owe you, because that only gets you so far. But if you shower them with wealth and you take that a little bit of a gamble that they're not going to call you out on it, because they don't technically know your checking account,
Mm-hmm.
but you can be like, hey, I can get you more of that. They're more likely to do it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So this was not a standing army she simply inherited. It was a force she herself meticulously assembled through negotiation, recruitment drives, and immense logistical challenge of feeding and equipping these diverse and often volatile soldiers.
Once she had amassed a force she deemed sufficient for her purposes, likely several thousand determined men, Cleopatra began her purposeful march back into Egypt. Her ultimate objective was, without a doubt, Alexandria, the heart of her kingdom and the seat of power. So it's clear that Cleopatra's time in exile was not passive. And when she returned to Egypt, she continued to actively work on building that military force and political support base. This would have involved appealing to local governors and officials in Upper Egypt, which, as we've said before, Upper Egypt is in elevation, not in longitude, latitude.
Mm-hmm. So not the Nile Delta.
Mm-hmm.
We're going south,
Yes,
which is
this
also
is the
impressive.
southern part of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
She would have used her royal lineage and personal charisma to persuade them to side with her against her brother's faction in Alexandria. She
And can
also
I
can
interrupt for? I'm sorry.
please
Can I just
do.
interrupt for 2 seconds? The other thing is like when we're thinking of. I don't know if we've really talked a ton about this, right? It makes sense when you think about migration patterns, right? Think about where Upper Egypt is, right, in correlation to like the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
Think about where Greek people are from, right? Think about where
Mm-hmm.
Alexandria is, right? So
So these are
Alexandria being so
Egyptians.
correct, that base the she's been appealing to long before she was ever kind of like forced out, right? So like she's going to go there first. So you've got the Arabs, you've got the Syrians who have some of your own family in there. You've got like probably other mercenary groups like from Greece or whatever, because I just feel like they're probably there. But then now you've also got the majority of the population. Even if you want to, I don't know, create a fantasy, but like say it's like 50-50, like that's still half the damn population plus all these other people from outside who are supporting
Mm-hmm.
you. And you damn well know that they were tired of these Greeks. Yeah, damn
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure, you
And
could probably bribe someone, but like it's gonna be less likely because they're like, why take your bribe when I could just kick you out after all the crap you've given all of us?
or off with their heads. But there's that too, you know. Um, so she also continued recruiting soldiers. This likely involved offering financial incentives or promises of future rewards to build an army capable of challenging Ptolemy the 13th's forces. And let's not forget one more tool she had: propaganda and personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
Cleopatra would have likely disseminated her own narrative of the conflict, portraying herself as the rightful ruler unjustly overthrown by ambitious advisors and a manipulated young king, which is not wrong. So, this period of exile from the court demonstrates Cleopatra's resourcefulness and determination. Despite being forced out of the capital and facing the might of the established court, she did not succumb to despair, but instead actively worked to reclaim her birthright because, yes, ma'am, do it, girl.
Mm-hmm.
This resilience would become a hallmark of her reign. So, Cleopatra's experience in exile likely had a profound impact on her future political strategies. It reinforced her need for independent power. Being reliant on the goodwill of others within her own court had led to her downfall. Those structures were not actually serving her. They served whoever the wind blew from, really. This
Mm-hmm.
experience likely instilled in her a determination to build a power base that was directly loyal to her. Maybe she was also taking some cues from some of those generals in Rome, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It
She did
ha-
live there.
she
She
did
lived
live
under the
there.
roof of one. She lived
She,
under the roof of the greatest one of the time.
yep,
You know, like
she
I
sure
just have a
did.
hard time.
No, she's got the mentality of it, and I think her
Yeah.
exile really like it took the last vestiges of naivety with it.
Mm-hmm.
It highlighted the importance of foreign alliances. Seeking support from the Arab tribes demonstrated her willingness to look beyond the traditional power structures of Egypt for assistance. This foreshadowed her later alliances with Roman figures like Caesar and Antony. It honed her diplomatic and persuasive skills. Negotiating with local leaders and potentially foreign entities during her exile would have further developed her already considerable diplomatic abilities. Think of it as practicing a language. Diplomacy is a language, persuasion is a language all in itself. And the more you practice, the more fluent you become. So, absolutely, absolutely, this would have helped her so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it likely deepened her understanding of Egyptian society beyond Alexandria. Her time in Upper Egypt would have exposed her to the nuances of Egyptian culture and the potential for support outside the Greek elite of the capital.
And you know what's crazy about all of this?
What's up?
Right? She is 20 years old.
Yep.
Right here. 49 BC, or, well, 48. She's like 2021. What did you do at 21? I wasn't raising entire armies and convincing entire governments to back me. You know, like,
No,
damn.
let's see. At 20, I got married, I bought a house, I had a baby all in 1 year. I
You
think
were
that's
better
big
off than
enough.
me. You had your life a lot more together than me. I was a mess.
No,
Like,
I did not have my life together. It was a series of dominoes that fell. It is what it is.
I'm just saying, like, give credit where it's due. You know, like, if we're looking at like someone like Caesar, he's not going to hit this stuff till like his 40s.
Yep.
You know, like Mark Antony was in his like late 20s, like early 30s. Like, it's wild. And she's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that much more effort to convince people to back you. And yet they did, with no like condition of like, oh, I'll back you if you marry me or marry my son or some bull crap. Like, you know, it's just like, yeah, no, girl, we like you. You got
No,
your
and I
shit
think
together.
that was more of like the down home aspect of her, realistically,
Mm-hmm.
where she was able to actually talk to these people. Because
Mm-hmm.
realistically, the Egyptian people, while they had pharaohs and everything like that, and they had these courts, the idea of a court as you and I think about it in more of like the European, Roman, Greco tradition, where it's
Mm-hmm.
very separate, that's
Right.
not really what these were. That's not what these were. In fact, like the Egyptian pharaohs, they had to perform not necessarily like a triathlon, but they had to do things out in public to show and give confidence to their people that hey, yes, they were still blessed by the gods and they were still
Mm-hmm.
capable of doing what needed to be done. Whereas these Greek
Yeah.
fuckers were just locked behind their palace walls, not even worshiping the same gods.
Yeah. And, you know, age has been kind of like this weird thing for me for this episode. But to just kind of put this in context, because we're about to meet someone very important in her life. Okay. Same day, same time, right? She is
Mm-hmm.
20 years old. Julius Caesar, at the same time, is 52 years old.
Mm-hmm.
52. And she's functioning as an equal player at 52. Actually, she's technically higher because she's a ruler, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's wild.
It is
Like, and
wild.
I also want to keep that in mind because, like, I feel like the other thing that we're going to, and we'll talk more, this is more next time. So we'll probably bring it up more again in that. But when we see Cleopatra in stories, right, with Julius Caesar, this love story, right, I think we have this mental image of people who are probably closer in age. Not that we think that they're the same age. We definitely always imagine her being younger of the two, but like not this much, you know, like 20. Not like she's not even old enough to drink.
Mm-hmm.
This man is 52. Imagine that today. Imagine a 52-year-old. Imagine if your dad at 52 got married to a 20-year-old.
That's gross.
Like, right. It, like it's just it's interesting, and I know there's different rules and stuff at the time and things like that, but like I just want us to keep that in mind when we're talking about these people, how much more impressive that really is, especially in Rome, where like, and maybe where some of the stigma comes from, right? Is like the older you are, the more respected you are, the
Mm-hmm.
more entitled you are. So the fact that they're going to be dismissive of a 20-year-old, 21-year-old girl.
Absolutely, they are.
So that just tells you so much about her, that she was able to convince that man to even give her the time of day later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm like, it's not manipulation. Like she had to have genuinely had something going on there. But also we have to remember the power dynamics there too.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Ultimately, all of this led her to Pelusium. Today, that would be modern Tel El Farm. Today, that would be modern Tel El Farma, a city of immense strategic importance at the time. Is located at the easternmost mouth of the Nile. Pelusium was a crucial choke point in Egypt's northeastern frontier. We've actually seen this before. This is how her dad kind of, came back with Galbinus and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So remember when we were talking about how, like, technically it was like two ships in the night, but like Mark Antony and her were in the same place at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
That's it right here. So this is the same place. So with that being said, it controlled the main land route into Egypt from the Levant, meaning any army attempting to enter Egypt from the east would certainly have to pass through or bypass this formidable stronghold. It's a chokehold, it's a choke point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that means you have to rely on the sea to get people in and supplies, which is dangerous.
Yes.
Not impossible, but it's dangerous. So Cleopatra's newly raised army arrived at Pelusium and, with a calculated precision, took up their positions. Ptolemy XIII's army, under the command of the seasoned general Achilles, immediately marched to intercept her. The two forces encamped, facing each other across the dusty plain. This was not yet a full-scale bloody battle, but a tense, nerve-wracking standoff. Both armies were locked in, awaiting Both armies were locked in a waiting game, perhaps hoping the other would make a critical mistake, or perhaps waiting for some unforeseeable development to tip the scales. The political stakes of this confrontation could not have been higher. The military standoff was a direct, undeniable challenge to Ptolemy XIII's authority. Cleopatra was asserting her inherent right to rule by the force of arms, and the impending outcome of this standoff, an inevitable battle would follow, would unequivocally determine the future of Egypt and indeed the very fate of the Ptolemaic dynasty. The stage was set for a dramatic clash, with the destiny of a kingdom hanging in the balance, all witnessed by the timeless waters of the Nile.
By the time Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria in 48 BCE, Cleopatra was poised to challenge her brother for control of Egypt. She had amassed a sufficient force and cultivated enough support to make her a significant player in the unfolding drama. Her strategic decision to seek an audience with Caesar, despite the risks, was a testament to her ambition and her understanding of the new power dynamics introduced by Rome's involvement. And that's where we will end it this week. Cleopatra consolidating her power far from home. While far off in the Mediterranean, a fleet of Roman ships was being pursued by a much larger one, and they were barreling their way towards Egypt. This decision, made under the duress, would go on to change the fate of rulers, nations, and the Western world forever. Next week, we will pick up on one of the most famous encounters of all time and how that led to one of the most legendary romances of all time.
All right. If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever and all platforms you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way for us to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more we connect to our fellow history nerds, the more we can build up a community and keep this show going. So wherever you are listening to this, whether it be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, if you like us, take the time to give us a positive review. It goes a long way.
Also, we have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content, like videocasts where we might try to make some ancient recipes, talk about topics that couldn't fit into the main arcs of the podcast, and just generally being batshit and dumpster fires, all for the price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time for us to create this show, so anything that you can provide would be a huge help.
If you have any ideas, comments, or just want to say hi, you can reach us at the Time Travelers Club podcast at gmail.com.
We can't wait to see you again next week. And as always, thanks for listening.
Bye for now.
Bye, guys.